All right, let's get right into it. You hear it everywhere, right? BRICS, de-dollarization, the end of the dollar's reign. But is it really possible for this group of nations to take on the most powerful currency in modern history? Today, we're going to cut through all the noise and separate the big headlines from the financial reality. I mean, this is the question that's all over the news, isn't it? It sounds so dramatic, like some massive global power shift is about to happen any minute now. But what if we're all asking the wrong question? See, this whole thing, it isn't really about swapping one currency for another. It's about something way bigger. It's about who holds the keys to the entire global system. The power to say what oil is priced in, the power to move money across borders, and the power to be the safe place everyone runs to in a crisis. That is the real game here.
Okay, so before we can even get to BRICS, the challenger, we've got to take a serious look at the champion. We need to understand just how dominant the dollar truly is. And I'm not just talking about being popular, we're talking about the system itself.
Here's a good way to think about it. The dollar, it isn't just the most popular car on the highway. It is the highway. It's the asphalt, the signs, the off-ramps. The whole global financial system is literally built on it.
And just look at the numbers here. This data from the IMF is pretty wild. After all this talk, all these years of de-dollarization, the US dollar still accounts for well over half of the world's reserves. The euro, way behind. And China's renminbi, barely making a dent at under 2%. This isn't a debate, it's just the hard data.
And it gets even crazier. We're talking about the dollar being involved in almost 90% of all currency trades. Think about that. Most international debt is priced in dollars. To even think about challenging that, you can't just introduce a new currency. You have to build an entirely new financial universe from scratch. Okay, so that brings us to BRICS. And right away, we need to tackle the biggest myth out there. You see it all over the internet, right? This idea that they're about to drop some kind of super currency on the world. So the story you hear is this epic revolution, one coin to dethrone the king. But the reality, well, it's a lot less dramatic and, honestly, a lot smarter. It's all about slowly building alternatives, creating workarounds, chipping away at the edges. And look, we don't even have to speculate. We have reports straight from the source. Reuters has confirmed it. Both Brazil and Russia have said a common currency just isn't happening anytime soon. So let's stop looking for this big dramatic moment and start looking at what's actually being built.
Right, so if they're not planning this big currency revolution, then what is the plan? What's the real strategy here?
Well, it seems to be a three-part plan. First, they're trying to do more trade with each other using their own currencies. That cuts the dollar out of those deals. Second, and this part is key, they're building their own payment systems that can talk to each other so they don't have to go through the US system. And third, they're setting up their own banks, like the New Development Bank, to fund projects without needing to go to the World Bank or IMF. And that, right there, is the real play. Announcing some flashy BRICS coin would get headlines, but it would probably just fizzle out. This other way, this slow, quiet, methodical building of alternatives, that could actually work over the long haul. It's erosion, not an explosion. But let's be real. Even with this clever strategy, the task ahead of them is just immense. We're not talking about climbing a hill here. This is like trying to scale Mount Everest.
And listen to this. This quote is so powerful because it's not coming from some American analysts trying to downplay the threat. This is from the Central Bank of Brazil, a BRICS country. He's basically saying, look, we just don't have the goods. We don't have a big enough pile of safe, reliable assets to compete with the US Treasury market. Because that's what it all comes down to, right? It's not about how big your economy is. It's about trust. Can the entire world park trillions of dollars in your assets and know it'll be safe? Do you have courts they can trust? And crucially, when things go bad everywhere else, are you the one place everyone runs to for safety? I mean, just look at this chart. It lays it all out visually. When you add up all the ways currencies are used around the world, the dollar isn't just winning the race, it's like it's running a completely different race on a different track. And that brings us to the big one, China. So many people just assume China's currency is the heir apparent. But again, you look at the numbers, and it's just not there yet. Not even close. Under 2% of reserves, under 3% of payments. Yeah, it's growing, absolutely. But a real challenger to the whole system? Not yet. So maybe we need to redefine what we even mean by de-dollarization. If it's not some big sudden collapse, then what does it actually look like in the real world?
The truth is, it's actually kind of boring. It's not a blockbuster movie. It's a central bank in Asia buying a little less in US bonds. It's two countries agreeing to trade in their own currencies. It's the dollar slowly shifting from being the only option to being the best option among a growing list of others. It's about losing the monopoly, not necessarily first place.
And you can see this happening in the data. The slice of the pie for other currencies in global reserves, it's more than doubled pretty recently. Now, it's still a tiny slice, don't get me wrong, but it's a trend. It shows that countries are starting to, dip their toes in other waters.
So this lets us ask a much better question. The old question was, will BRICS destroy the dollar? The new, smarter question is, can BRICS speed up the move to a world with more currency options? A world where the dollar's still on top, but maybe not by such a huge margin. And the answer to that question is probably yes. And that leads to the final and maybe the most important point of all. The biggest long-term threat to the dollar might not be BRICS or China or anyone else. It might be the US itself. If you're the champion and you get careless, if you take your top spot for granted, you're basically handing your rivals the tools they need to beat you. So let's sum it all up. The final verdict? Short term? No way. The dollar's infrastructure is just too dominant. Medium term? Yeah, partially. BRICS can definitely chip away at the margins. But long term, the only way the dollar really gets challenged is if the US messes up. Big time. And that's where we'll leave it. The story here isn't about a sudden revolution. It's about a slow, deliberate evolution. And it leaves us with the real question we need to be watching for the next 10 years. Is the world building a financial system with more than one pillar? A system where the dollar is still number one, but it's no longer the only game in town? That is not a theoretical question anymore.